Once upon a time in Nigeria, there lived a hunter. And he lived in a little village with his 4 sons and his wife, who was expecting another baby. Well, one day, the hunter took his bow and his arrows and he set off into the forest to hunt. His family waited patiently, thinking, I wonder what he'll bring home for dinner tonight. But that night, the hunter didn't come home. The next day there was no hunter, the day after there was no hunter, and his sons went into the forest to look for him, but they found no trace at all. So fearing the worst, they started to cry. And they cried for a couple of weeks. And then they dried their tears and got on with life. And after a month, they had completely forgotten about the hunter. Well, shortly after, the baby was born. It was another baby boy. But this time, this baby was a little bit different because he started to grow really fast. Soon he was crawling, then he was walking, and then talking. And his very first words were, "Where's Daddy?" "Oh, Daddy." "Well, one day he went into the forest and he didn't come back," said the mum. "Listen, boys, why not take your little brother into the forest to look for him?" And so off they went. And there, in the heart of the forest, they found his bow, and then his arrows, and then the bones of the hunter. "Well," said the big brother, "don't worry, because I know how to put bones together." So he sat round the pile of bones and he started to do something very sort of curious with his hands. And all of a sudden, all the bones started jumping and clicking and clanking, and there on the forest floor was the skeleton of the hunter. "Well," said the second brother, "I know how to put flesh and skin back on the body." So he sat beside the skeleton and he started to make like a strange noise. And the brothers looked on in amazement as the organ started to go back in the skeleton, the flesh, the skin, and now there, on the floor of the forest, was the dead body of the hunter. "You won't believe this," said the third brother, "but I know how to give life. Look, one moment." He sat down beside the body and started to blow. It sounded as if all the winds in the world were in his breath. And little by little, the breast of the hunter started to go up and down, up and down. Now the hunter was alive. And he was like lying on the floor of the forest. It looked as if he was fast asleep. "Well," said the fourth brother, "you should know that I know how to give movement to a body." And he started to sing an ancestral song. It seems as if there were sparks of fire coming out of his mouth and his hands. And all of a sudden, the hunter sat up. He rubbed his eyes. He looked really puzzled. And he looked around him. And the eldest brother said, "Listen, Dad, don't worry. You were dead, but now you're alive." The hunter said nothing. He stood up, he picked up his bow, his arrows, and he set off back to the house, with the 5 sons running after him. When he arrived in the village, his wife ran out and gave him a big, big hug and a kiss and said, "You must be hungry." The hunter said nothing yet again. He picked up a piece of black ebony wood and a carving knife, and he started to carve and carve. He carved for 3 days and 3 nights. And his sons looked on in amazement as out of that wood came the most beautiful creation. It's as if the whole forest was inside. There were trees and leaves and roots. There was fruit, there was nuts, insects, animals. There was the sun, the moon, the stars, everything that the hunter had become in the forest was in that beautiful piece of art. He then took a cow's tail and attached it to his work of art and made a little fly whisk, a beautiful whisk to whisk away the flies. And he said, "This work of art is for the person who saved my life." "Oh," said the mother, "it's for me, because I asked the boys to go and look for you in the forest." No. "Well, obviously it's for me," said the elder brother, "because I put all your bones together." No. And the second brother, "Perhaps it's for me because I put your flesh and your skin and your organs on the skeleton." No. The third brother, "Obviously it's for me because I gave you the breath of life." No. The fourth brother, "Perhaps it's for me because I gave you movement." No. Who's it for then? The hunter looked at his family very slowly and said, "It's for the youngest member of our family, because he never forgot me." Because while someone is remembered by a single person, they are never truly dead, because they live on in the memory of that person. He picked up his little son, he picked up the piece of art and gave it, put it in his hands, and he said, "Thank you. Thank you for remembering me."